be here present.
Appreciate that.
All right, I'm here now. All right.
And it is
Hey,
Blackout Day
feels
today,
good.
July
Feels
7th.
good to, man. Like I'm glad that we keep doing this because like every time we read this, I'm like, oh, we on the right track, bruh. We on the
Doing it
right
right.
track, man. And yo, so I'm just excited to talk about chapter 4, strategy, advocacy, and practice. Black study circles and co-op education on the front line.
Here we are, family. Page 85. Yeah, this is a nice snippet, man. I really want us to look at ourselves during this time that we speak on this chapter.
Mhm.
This is
As always, please enter any questions or comments, either like live with us now or when you're seeing it later. And so, bro, do you want to read one of these quotes to start us off?
yeah, let's do it. 80
Okay.
page 85, chapter 4, strategy, advocacy, and practice. Black study circles and co-op education on the front lines. We'll start off with the first quote by J.L. Reddix, quoted in Hope, 1940.
Mm.
We believe that the most important single factor in our progress in Gary so far has been our educational program. We realized from the beginning that if a cooperative business was going to help our people in a large way, they must study its fundamental philosophy, ideals, and history. If a cooperative business is going to help our people in a large way,
Mm.
they must study its fundamental philosophy, ideals, and history.
Oh, sure.
Does this sound familiar, family? A little bit, kind of.
Yeah. It also starts with George Schuler, who was big into like newspapers and did a lot. We're going to read about him. He says, "It is our conviction that we must be trained before trying to lead people."
mm,
Moving with like that's some integrity right there. Making sure that we know what we're doing before we lead people.
no question.
Yeah. And so yeah, on page 84 for Collective Courage, we got um, Jessica Gordon Nemhart talking about how every African American owned cooperative of the past that she researched and almost every contemporary co-op she studied began as the result of a study group or depended on purposive training and orientation of members.
Mm,
Yo,
mm.
yo, like she says, like almost every, like, wow. Okay,
Almost
we
every.
know that all of this history that we've been reading from the 1700s up until now and moving forward, all of the folks that were standing on their shoulders began studying together, and that's what we're doing right now.
Ain't that something, brother? Cause we like to think, just we gotta just go do. I do too. I get caught up in the energy and like, man, we just gotta do something. But studying, practicing, make sure that we know exactly what we're doing is key to be, successful. And that's what's up. Did you have that in mind, the end game in mind when you was like, hey man, we need to start studying these principles, man? Because you was the first man. And I started digging with you. So did you already know, or
Well,
did it just come in alignment like that, brother?
I don't know, bro. You know how like you read things in the past, and then like if you're not like intentional about keeping that information, it just kind of gets well, for me, it gets mushed into my general knowledge, and so
Mm,
I don't always know like when I'm pulling from X or when it's. But anyway, regardless of how it happened, like we had to start studying together, and we realized as we started studying that this was actually a thing our folks did,
no question.
and we want to continue that. And further down in the middle of the page, it says that education was and continues to be an essential element of the development and success of the cooperatives that form the Mondragon Cooperative Corporation in Spain, for example.
Mm,
And so they first started off with bringing cooperative education into a polytechnical high school in the 1950s by Father Jose Maria Arizmendi. I can't pronounce that.
Congressman did not eat. Yeah, that was nice. Okay, I like
They
that.
got some names. But Arizmendi's, like all of the bakeries here in the East Bay are named after this guy. And
Shout
so
out,
what
Father.
Pentagon did in the 50s was they had training as well as academic and refresher courses. They've created not only their own university, but they also have their own bank. And so
Mhm.
they're able to train themselves and their community and then go to their cooperative bank and be like, yo, like this is our plan, let's do it. And that's what we're trying to get to right now.
No question.
Yeah. Let's move to page 86.
One of my favorite numbers.
Yeah. And this is chapter 4 of Collective Courage. Appreciate you, Authentic African, for reminding of us about the Think Outside the Boss workshop that's happening on Friday, 4:30 p.m. Pacific. And what we're going to be doing there is going through like the basics of how to start a co-op and let you know like, okay, what are the different entities to choose? We might even go through like how the money flows, so we get like we can do these things in like a 6 hour chunk, or we can break them up into 2 hours. We put 2 hours, but you know, shout out for the 8 people who have signed up already.
So,
We're going to be tailoring it to what you need, but we're going to be starting off with the ground floor, like how do you start a co-op, and then we'll move from there.
yeah, walking you through the process, family together.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And so now we're going to read about a little bit about Du Bois at the top of page 86. He's talking about the concepts of intelligent cooperation and intelligent democratic control in economic leaders and institutions depended heavily on public information, member education, and training. You can sign up by going to our link tree, and then it'll take you to Zoom, and then you can put in your email, and then you'll get the reminder. Thanks for asking, Black Mental Health. And so what Du Bois is talking about, intelligent cooperation and intelligent democratic control, like if we're not giving the information to our members, training and educating them, then we're not allowing for the folks who should ultimately be accountable for us in a democratic cooperative to have that, you know, like how can we keep someone accountable in accounting if we haven't even been educated on what that means or like how it works? So it's important that the people who have that knowledge pass on that knowledge, because that's, I mean, how are we going to progress if we don't do so?
All right.
Du Bois also talks about in this paragraph how for the 25 years that he was the editor in chief of the NAACP's the magazine The Crisis, he did his best to put out meetings, let people know through conferences, so he can train and discuss with others how to do consumer cooperation or any other kind of cooperative economics. Ted, you want to read this quote he says? The advancement or the advance of the
Yeah,
Negro.
yeah. So Du Bois says this, and this is in 1940. It says how he explains the important education, how important education has been to the advancement of African Americans in general. And this is what he touches on. He says, the advance of the Negro people since emancipation has been the extraordinary success in education, technique, and character. Hmm. The advance of the Negro people since emancipation has been the extraordinary success. So very successful in education and technique. I'm assuming that he means technical skills.
Yeah.
Getting positions, doing them very well in our character. Very prideful from what I see observing back in the days. Very prideful we were in ourselves and our culture and the power that we had amongst each other. And Du Bois touched on that. He believed that education and planning were essential. Planning was essential in the development of the cooperative commonwealth.
Yeah.
No question.
Mm-hmm.
Then he touches on the next one. He says continuous education. There you go. It doesn't stop. We learn from the rooter to the tutor, from the womb to the tomb, family. So it's only right that it's okay to learn a sport or something that's of entertainment. But when we're learning the tools of nation building, how to provide for one another, support one another, because we got to understand after emancipation, a lot of Black folks, especially in the South, was kind of, if they weren't still doing sharecropping, they were kind of left to fend on their own. No income, no support. So they kind of, I feel like it was a trap They wanted to see how far we can make it. They didn't believe that they thought we'd be crawling back on our hands and our feet. But we had some very powerful Black folks that did study, taught ourselves how to read, taught ourselves how to learn these skills, and we hit the ground running like everything else in life. And I think that was the first taste that they got that woke them up. Like, wow, like these folks are very resilient. Like we give them a shoe and some peanut butter, we leave them alone. They gonna have a car, automobile at the end of the day. They gonna figure out how to move that sucker, that joker. So, man, it's just showing over and over, family, how the continuous implementation of us focusing on education, like we're doing today, every Monday through Friday, you guys have been coming, is key. And this is the work that we need to be doing also with, um, yelling out in pain, which shows up in many facets, protests. I was talking to a brother yesterday about the looting, how he said the looting and the shooting will never stop, because that's the dance that we choose to play in this drama. But this is the part of the drama that's not televised, family. This is the part that they say the revolution will not be televised, because we're working behind scenes. So yeah, W.B. Du Bois talks about exactly what we're talking about today and what we've been talking about. This education is key, family, and that's what's up.
Yeah, and
shout out to everybody that's here right now.
This part of page 86 talks about how the future of cooperative development also depends on reaching young people with knowledge about alternative economic structures and cooperative economics, as well as experiences with entrepreneurship. And Repair Nations has really been like hitting that hard, seeking to get the people who, under 35 to get into this, because we got to build the next economy. Others won't do it for us.
No question.
So moving down to the page, to the bottom of page 86, this is chapter 4 of Collective Courage. It's talking about how human capital is traditionally viewed as a factor of labor in terms of measuring and representing labor's credentials and skills. So that's kind of weird to think about, but it's saying that human capital, like the resources that we can bring as ourselves, are traditionally viewed as a factor of labor in terms of measuring and representing what skills you have. It is usually what labor brings with it. The study of working conditions in cooperatives suggests that cooperatives also develop and generate human and social capital, not just human. It is not just what is brought to the job. So on-the-job training in specific industry skills, business planning, accounting, strategic planning, and skills of democratic participation are developed within cooperative businesses. These are all things that we have to learn. In addition to teamwork, meeting facilitation, leadership, and networking. Okay. And these are things that they say become endogenous, like ingrained into what's going on in a cooperative. Cooperatives always require trust and solidarity. And at the same time that you're building that trust and solidarity, you're developing and maintaining your cooperative. Let's see. So this scholar Haynes, further down on page 87, coined the term social energy to capture the non-traditional cooperative effort. He talks about how expertise and time put in by co-op members to make the business work and connect it to the profitability of the cooperative. Observing that Du Bois had a similar notion with social engagement is an economic resource in cooperative economic endeavor, both an input and an output. And at this next paragraph, we're seeing that cooperatives use multiple levels of educational practice, including study circles, curriculum development, pre-training, and other things. It's telling us to reference the next page for table 4.1. So let's jump over there real quick, Tet. I was looking through this during the pre-reading. I realized that Repair Nations is almost doing all of these things in one way or another. And it's not like it's just me or you doing it. There's like folks that like aren't on the camera doing organizing stuff for Repair Nations and the ecosystem we're building, so that we're kind of covering our bases. And it wasn't like we were looking at this list and it was like, yo, we got to do this. It just kind of happened, right? And so the study circles with Collective Courage, we've been doing that since last year. This year it's all on virtual. It's saying informal or formal group meetings with readings and discussions. Been doing that. Okay, curriculum development. Formal adult education could be community workshops and training programs, reading lists,
The boss.
stuff they need to start up their business. Pre-training and orientation could be formal, week or month long, various depending on industry specific things related to that cooperative. And luckily, we're on the steering committee of the East Oakland Grocery Cooperative along with Mandela Grocery and Action on Verba. And so we're helping to like create curriculum for that group. It's an interest. Ongoing industry specific and organizational skills. That's also related to both the East Oakland Grocery Cooperative and the real estate project that we're doing in East Oakland, where we've got community members and folks who are going to be potential or eventual cooperative members with us coming in to work on committees and learn stuff about real estate and how this stuff works. Networking and conferences, which are formal and informal, helping to create cooperation among cooperatives with other like-minded organizations or individuals. We had a conference in Ghana last year during the Year of Return where we brought 28 folks from the US. We met about 70 folks from Ghana during our 2-day conference. And okay, so we got a check mark on that. Leadership development, which requires member responsibilities and information sharing, rotates leadership responsibilities, and involves certain members in networking and or management. We've got Mia Kosua helping us with the Seed Commons. Brother Tut is doing all the things that he does in addition to here he's at Co-op Richmond. We've got folks stepping up who are artists that want to learn more about leadership. We're also doing a leadership development training with Holistic Underground, both for folks in the US and for folks in Ghana and abroad. And the last thing is public education, flyers and brochures and newsletters and things like that. Also, Repair Nations has done this. So we're seeing like, and like I said before, we weren't like trying to check off the box, but I think we've kind of like just been doing what's intuitive, what we know what we know to be right, and it just so happens that we're in alignment with this book and what our ancestors have been doing. So like super glad that y'all have been coming when you can, looking at the videos if you can't come live, and joining us on this because we truly are reclaiming our history. And when we start talking about the Young Negro Cooperatives League, I know y'all are gonna want to do something similar to how they do, because it was like,
Yeah.
it was it.
Ella Joe, Queen Baker. She did it, man. Yeah, when you connected to the root, the fruit is free, family. You know, the tree, we formed it. We just got back in alignment. And the work that was laid out by our ancestors, like, there's something, you know, we believe or we know that energy can never be created nor destroyed, always here. And African spirituality is say there is no eternal death. There's only eternal life. So when we get in alignment with what we should be doing and continuing to work, the process will be made clear. And when we look back, we'll say, hey, we connected to the root. So the fruits are free, family. That's what's up, man. So big shout outs to everybody who played their part to keep us in alignment, keep pushing us in alignment, and staying in alignment with us. Let's get this work done. Let's keep going.
Yeah, so the leadership program, the first one is it's halfway through, or a little bit more than halfway through. And the second one, I need to tap in with Mazen, but I think it opens up in the next couple weeks, if not the end of the month. So at the bottom of page 88, we're seeing that the study, learn, implement model was followed again and again by African Americans and others around the world throughout the 20th century. As early as 1918, Black activist groups in urban areas were forming study circles to discuss economic problems and learn about economic or cooperative economic solutions. And so if we move up to the top of page 89, it's talking about how the Citizens Cooperative Store in Memphis, we talked about that last chapter, was started after they heard a call from W.E.B. Du Bois trying to get folks to join the Negro Cooperatives Guilds and start consumer cooperatives. And that resulted in 75,000 members in 5 stores in Memphis. Yeah. Uh, there, it says there was almost no documentation about how many study groups were formed after this initial meeting, but we know that at least 2 cooperatives, Citizens Co-op in Memphis and Cooperative Society of Bluefield in West Virginia, grew out of that meeting. And there's evidence that most cooperatives develop from study circles or informal meetings. And the exciting part that we're going to learn more about in Chapter 5, it gives us a little intro to the Young Negro Cooperatives League, who started in 1930. And they started by being devoted to study the history, principles, and methods of consumer cooperatives. And they used a year to do that. After that first year, let me back up. The YNCL believed that members and leaders must be well educated and informed. And in this case, the subject was economics and consumer cooperation. And just as a note, there are like generally 3 different kinds of co-ops. There's a worker cooperative where the people who are working in the store are the owners, the co-owners of that business. There is producer cooperatives where, like, if there are farmers who gather together and sell their produce together, that's a consumer cooperative, similar to Ocean Spray. The last one is a consumer cooperative, similar to REI, where the people who purchase goods from a place are the owners of that place, the co-owners of that place. And they receive a little bit of dividends, usually at the end of the year. And so the Young Negro Cooperatives League was really focused on the consumer cooperatives part and making sure that as we're buying things, we're also co-owners of that establishment and can hold those people accountable to the principles that we hold dear. And so the YNCL provided reading lists for members. They sent out newsletters, held conferences, and promoted a 5-year plan that included study and discussion of cooperative economics. In addition, the YNCL planned a national tour, Ted, I want to do this, where Executive Director Ella Baker spent 2 days in each community, studied its economic problems, introduced the concept of consumer cooperation, provided examples of communities that developed co-ops, and then organized new councils so that those folks who are amazing.
That's what's up.
Yeah. And so part of the purpose of the tour was to educate people about co-ops, advertise the YNCL, and establish councils so to act as an antidote to some of the hopelessness. And we know that this is happening right in the Great Depression. The Great Depression started a couple years ago, and that's when the YNCL joined and when it started booming and when a lot of cooperative economic activity in the U.S. started booming in a time where the rest of the economy was contracting. But if you take a step back, maybe watch a little bit of Bloomberg, you'll understand that these kinds of times are actually the best times to grow because everything else is contracting. If you can get the money, everything else is cheaper. And so our time is now, and it's lining up for us if we're ready for it. But we have to start building trust with each other and being ready to take these steps. And so Baker, at the bottom of the page, Baker counseled members to concentrate upon the intensive study and circulation of the facts of consumer cooperative, encouraging the writing of papers and holding debates upon different phrases of it. And I'm really looking forward to continuing this in Chapter 5 because Ella Baker came out the gates swinging, and she did amazing things since she started organizing. So it's cool to know some of her deepest roots started in cooperative economics, and she carried that forward with her as she was organizing SNCC and the other thing. Gary, Indiana, is a place where consumer co-ops were super, jobs started getting outsourced and money and resources started leaving the community. It became a ghost town. And so it's kind of sad because it didn't quite last, but they have some really good nuggets for us to take and move forward. And so the Consumer Cooperatives Trading Company in Gary, Indiana, provides an example of how study circles serve many purposes, including economic analysis, the movement, networking among co-ops, energizing and activating members, and getting industry-specific training and researching development for expansion. And then on the last page we're going to go through today, page 90, is talking about how what they were doing in Gary, Indiana closely resembled Mondragon, because in Gary, Indiana, they were able to bring cooperative education into a high school, similar to how Mondragon brought cooperative education into a high school, which later turned into a cooperative university and a cooperative bank. But unfortunately, because of the many economic and social pressures we deal with here in the U.S. as Black Americans, people of the African diaspora, it just didn't last. But you can see that what they were doing was the right way. It just happened to be that there was lots of sabotage in what we're doing.
Consistently. Yeah, consistently. We just want to educate and liberate. That's it.
Yeah. And Jessica Gordon Emhart is talking about how in Kansas City there were study circles formed, initially with 30 people that grew. And the local principal and his wife went and observed co-op education in other places so that they could bring that back to Kansas City. So they went to Pittsburgh and Columbus, Ohio, and Gary, Indiana, Minneapolis, and Chicago to learn from their peers, then bring that information back. We're seeing that the People Consumers Cooperative in Chicago started with a boycott of an exploitative store.
That's what's up.
1936. And then members of this group investigated alternative sources for the products they needed. They also found literature about co-ops. They met Reddix from Gary, who suggested a study club. They started it, and then they formed a buying club and an eventual store. So, and they did that all, let's see. So they started boycotting September 1936, formed the study group October of 1936. A few months later, they started a buying club. So let's say the beginning of, that's hella quick, bro.
Right.
Like they knew what they wanted for sure. And then like coming together, studying together seemed like it confirmed it, gave them the stuff they needed, and they just shot off. The Federation of Southern Cooperatives Land Assistance Fund, been around since the 1960s and is still around today, even though they faced like scrutiny from the FBI and other government agencies. They started as a study group, and they continue to offer those kinds of things today. And so we're seeing that a lot of what we have, a lot of what is still around, began as study groups. Dr. Nembhard includes a portion of an interview she did with the co-founder of the Ella Baker International Cooperative Center in Washington, D.C. And she said that she found study circles, this is Linda Leaks. She said she found study circles very effective in every stage of the development and maintenance of cooperative housing in the 1990s and early 2000s. Moreover, because of the importance of establishing trust among members and an understanding of the mission of the cooperative, Leaks has focused more of her recent attention on the development of international cooperative communities, Ashe, where members join the cooperative not only for housing, but because of the philosophy, mission, and activist intentions of it, similar to Wakanda here in East Oakland, bro. And then the last thing that we're going to talk about today is that another example of the growing use of study circles is their increased importance as a mechanism in the field of microlending. Bruh, did I tell you that me and Mia met with the Isusu app folks yesterday?
No.
Confirmed Black O, and I'm sorry I forgot to put it on your calendar. But bruh, like, so we've already started, like, we've seen it happen without even reading this yet. that study circles can help with the micro lending, and that loans are often awarded to members of lending circles who study micro entrepreneurship together, support one another, and make sure that individual members pay back the loan. Study circles are also becoming widely used in their deliberate democracy movement and to strengthen civic participation. Speaking of, the Community Democracy Project is all about changing Oakland City Charter so that we can have more say on what our budget is, and we make those decisions in assemblies that are throughout neighborhoods across the city. They're having a mock assembly called the Fuck Your Budget Assembly soon. So if you want to get a part of that and see what it's like to have participatory democracy in your city, like on the budget scale, check out their Instagram CDP Oakland and sign up. I'm gonna do it. I think it's dope, and I think that we absolutely need it. And if you look at examples in Brazil, you'll see that when they instituted these kinds of things, crime went down, poverty went down, and like happiness and joy for life went up, and everyone like really enjoyed it until, well, I'm not gonna spoil it, but yo, really excited and thank y'all for joining today. Appreciate you, Tut, for kicking us off and grounding us, man. Anything to say to close? We're a little over time again.
Oh man, I think we right on time, bro. Thank you for that full, man. I hope we all feeling full for this lunch break, this quick snack. Please check us out. Think Outside the Boss workshop this Friday. And yeah, that's it. Any questions, comments, concerns, please DM us, Repair Nations, on IG. We also live on YouTube. And man, yeah, this was a great black time to spend with you guys. I hope you guys got some good nuggets. I sure did. Bro, look like he excited. You about to go do some more work, so let's stay busy. You know, idle hands are a waste of time. Let's stay busy, guys, and looking forward to linking back up with y'all tomorrow, continuing this journey within ourselves, you know, to bring into the present times for the future.
Gotcha.
That's what's up. So yeah, family, we love y'all. Peace and blessings. Oh yeah, today is a blackout day. It's a massive call to be united and not spend. So if you already spent, just try to pause it as much as you can, or just spend with black businesses. Yeah. Anything else, brother?
Uh, if you need help getting the black businesses, look up the Black Bay Area or the Baobab Directory. They both got lists, and I think also the Black Cultural Zone has lists. I looked at the Killer Mike Netflix series where he tries to spin black for 3 days, and he was having a hella hard time. And he was like, "I can't buy weed because white people in Northern California grow it."
That's real. Need some
Yeah,
more
bro.
black farmers, man.
Yeah. Oh, and shouts out to the My Black Receipt, bro. They were able to get folks to upload their receipts and show that $5 million was over $5 million was spent at black businesses over the